Hi, everybody.
Hi, I'm Justin,
And I'm Melissa.
and this is the story of our son Kieran and how we learned about CDH.
So, we found out about CDH at our 20-week ultrasound scan. We had ultrasounds prior to that were pretty normal, pretty typical. And the 20-week one was the one that kind of changed everything when we found out we were suspected to have a diaphragmatic hernia for our unborn baby.
They kind of stopped during the ultrasound. The technician wanted to get a second opinion, and that's kind of when we were both looking at each other like, this is kind of strange because we've never encountered it before, and we didn't know what to expect until they asked us to come back 4 weeks later to do another ultrasound to see exactly what was going on so he could develop a little bit more on the womb and have a better idea. Of course, at that point of the 24-week ultrasound, that's when they confirmed that it was a diaphragmatic hernia. They asked us not really to look at anything or to do anything until we met with the surgical team. Melissa
And the genetic counselor.
And the genetic counselor. Melissa, though, decided it would be a good idea to look it up and and Google it to see what it was all about. I honestly had no clue what CDH was until we actually met with the surgical team that would be doing Kieran's surgery. When we went out and met with the doctors and everything, and we sat down and actually discussed exactly what it was, what it entailed. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak on your behalf, but I think there was a sense of the severity of it wasn't as much as he thought it was, and because I Googled things and I was looking at pictures of organs in the chest and the lungs not in the right spot, and it seemed so unreal for our baby that I was carrying, because the movement was fine, everything was fine, seemed okay, seemed pretty textbook typical pregnancy, and how could our baby's insides look like these pictures that I was seeing? And I felt very helpless and really wanted more information, because I wanted to know what they were going to do to help our baby, and what the odds were, which weren't good. They were 50% is what they told us survival rate. So that's how we found out about CDH. We were due at the end of December 2017. The week of Christmas we were actually due. Kieran was born on December 4th, 2017, one day after Justin's birthday. So that was
greatest birthday present ever.
That was his birthday present. Our maternal fetal doctor and our surgeon through the fetal center were all on call that week, and so Kieran knew what he was doing when he decided to come that week. He had surgery at 4 days old, and fortunately he had a primary repair. His existing diaphragmatic tissue was used to close his incision. They didn't have to use muscle, the stomach muscle, or a Gore-Tex patch or anything like that. He had his intestines up in his chest cavity, and his heart was in the center of his chest, but cardiology cleared him of any heart defect. He had the anatomy of his heart was great. Everything looked good on his heart. But yeah, his insides were definitely not the way that they should be or could be. But he had his repair, and then the goal was just to get him breathing on his own and get his plumbing working. I don't think either of us had ever been more excited to see a first poop as we were. And Justin got to change that diaper.
First diaper change ever.
He earned it. Yeah, that was a pretty exciting moment. So Kieran came home on oxygen support and an NG feeding tube. He did not have to have a G-tube. He did not have to come home on any medication. He was cleared of pulmonary hypertension before we left the hospital. He came home on December 23rd, and then we were back in the emergency room on December 24th from an infection at his incision site. And our surgeon was again available for that visit. And we were able to bring him home without any other medication.
The home stint was quite exciting.
He says exciting. I say overwhelming.
For feeding and toting around oxygen tanks, feeding like the feeding bags, everything. We made the best of it. It's when you don't know what's going on.
It was really overwhelming. It was an extension of the hospital room. Through the course of me doing my Google research, I found out about cherubs, and it was a reassurance to see that there was other families that knew exactly what we were going through and that had been through the same thing. And I was reading about these stories of these babies that were exactly like our son, and I remember feeling connected finally, because no one else I had talked to up to this point that either of us had any interaction with had ever experienced CDH or knew what it was. Even our family had never heard of it or had any experience with it. So finding cherubs really kind of was an eye-opener, but we didn't really connect with anybody until a few months after. Kieran was probably about 3 or 4 months old. We met with our Utah state representative and other families here in Utah at an event, and Kieran got to see and we got to meet other families of children that had survived and other children that didn't. And we finally met other families that knew what it was like, what we were going through. Kieran stayed healthy from the time he came home from the NICU until he was 21 months old. He had respiratory infections, he had colds, but we didn't have him in daycare, we didn't have any other family watching him. He wasn't really exposed to anybody or anything. But in September of 2019, through the course of about a 2-week window, Kieran got very sick, and very quickly, and I think within a 7-day window I had him at the Instacare 3 different times, different doctors, and finally we took him to the emergency room, and they couldn't figure out what was going on, and which was extremely frustrating, because that's why you bring your baby to the hospital, is to have them tell you what's wrong, and they can't. Kieran was in there for 15 days with a bowel obstruction. They finally confirmed that it was a bowel obstruction. We were really fortunate to have the same surgical team, or at least some of the members of the surgical team that did Kieran's
for the second surgery that was part of the first surgery. So they already knew him. They already knew the condition that he had. They were fully aware of it.
Yeah, I will say nothing really prepared me for. I don't think I was clueless to the fact that things can happen once you come home, because I had seen through the course of cherubs and other families that a lot of our kids continue to have stints in and out of the hospital and other illnesses, but I certainly wasn't prepared for another hospitalization. It was kind of traumatic coming back into the hospital again, and now that our son was 2.5 years old, he could express pain, he could express discomfort, and that was not a fun experience going through that again. How it's affected our family, I don't know that when you go through CDH and your family is affected by this, I would never say that we're a normal family. I really don't like that word, normal. I think we have an appreciation for time. We appreciate our time together. We appreciate our milestones together in a completely different sense. Because every day is, I mean, he went from being healthy to being very sick very quickly. So this was a definite eye-opener to the second surgery that he had.
I think we kind of what you touched on, like it's day to day, and just enjoying the moment that slowing down and just taking the time to enjoy being together and enjoying the time with him.
Even when he's being a toddler and he's full of life and full of spunk and naughty and fun, all of those things we appreciate it because
he's just a miniature me.
Yeah, he's very much like his dad.
Very mischievous.
Yeah.
It's okay. But just enjoying the time.
Yeah,
I think is really we don't take anything for granted. The little moments, the fun little things he does when you least expect it.
the things that make him Kieran.
Yeah.
When we were first teaching him his different body parts, his nose and his ears and his mouth, we also teach him about his scar and where his scar is, and we want him to be proud of that. We want him to know that he's a warrior and that he is here because of that scar, and that he has other families. I show him pictures of not just him, but of other cherubs that have, look, Kieran, they have a special scar like you do. And so he can meet, and he was too little when we met with the group the first time, but I think we're both looking forward to being able to have him grow up knowing that,
he's not the only one.
He's not the only one, absolutely. Because I certainly felt like we were the only ones until we met other families that knew what we were going through and understood what we were going through. I think having CDH International and Cherubs has put us in touch with a connection of people that can really understand those highs and lows, and that support is huge. I mean, the prayers, the sentiments for each other, not just for us, but for us to help support other families. And since our son has been born, I've met some other families just through what I do for work that have been through CDH, and I had never even heard of it until we were diagnosed with him. So we have our little girl Ava here, who we had our 20-week ultrasound with her when Kieran was in the hospital. We had it right after he came home, and boy, that was a roller coaster too. Just the anticipation of not knowing. And she had no signs of any defect or any other anomalies, I guess, with her ultrasound scan, but that was a stressful time. Going through it with Kieran,
knowing that again when we actually found out what it actually is and the percentage of the babies it affects, it immediately goes to the back of your mind when we got pregnant with Ava. It immediately was there that could it happen again? Like, are we looking at something similar? Do we have to do this? Do we have to do it all over again?
Yeah, it seems like such a small percentage until that percentage is you, and then it doesn't feel like it's such a small group anymore.
No.
So we were, relieved and scared and nervous, but when we found out that hers turned out okay, and they told us that the same percentage that Kieran had CDH is the same percentage that we would have for any future pregnancies. So we didn't feel like it wasn't worth it to try, but it was definitely very emotional the whole time. Just the anticipation that everything would be okay. I think it's important for families that are going through this to really advocate and be a voice for our kids. We, like I said, we didn't really know anybody up until we were fortunate that we found Cherubs. I think we would have been lost had we not done that, or at least struggled with trying to navigate the emotion of it, the medical terminology, all the possibilities of what could happen or what did happen, all of that. And we earlier was it this year or last year when we did this study? It was this year, wasn't it? Yeah, because we had Eva.
I can't remember.
So we participated in the Dreams study and had a saliva sample for Justin, myself, and Kieran. Anything that we can do to help try and find a cause for this defect. Anything. It was so easy. It was so easy.
You don't think about it until it affects your family, and until it really is you. Then everything kind of gets put into a new perspective, and people don't think about like, hey, like what do we do for research or volunteering or donating or do anything for this if it's not you. For us, you can't put a price on your child. You really can't. You do anything and everything you can to make sure they live the most productive and happy life that they can have. That's the goal as a parent. Just want them to be healthy and happy, and knowing kind of what CDH International does and the families that they do help, the money that they generate for research.
Like just participating in the studies is probably the one small thing that we felt like we could do from our family to help other families in the situation, and hopefully we'll find a cause and a cure for the defect. But yeah, we certainly appreciate the time that we have with him, and he's such a joy. He's a great big brother. He's a great little brother. He's just so full of life and energy, and he's really taught us to just live in the moment, really take each moment and appreciate it and don't take it for granted, and just to love unconditionally. He loves life.
Yeah.
He loves life, and has taught us to really be the same way, I think.
For sure.
So we look forward to his future, but we know we have a support system with CDH International, with the Cherubs organization. We know we have support locally here with our state, and I think that's a huge relief, knowing there's other families that understand. So we're grateful.
We truly
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's our story. That's Kieran. Here's Kieran, and we wish everybody the best of luck with everything, and we're always here as a support if anybody has questions. Everybody's journey is different, but we certainly are here to help support other families as well.
For sure.